Bosses in Star Citizen. What sort of stuff do you expect from that? Big mechs, veteran pilots, super powerful ships, but what about your just normal dudes on the ground? How do you bossify them? Do you give them tons of health, but then they're super spongy? That's not great. Is there a way to do that with equipment or something a bit more organic? Well, we're going to talk a bit on this today because there was a big chain of dev responses from CIG's Zach Priest. I believe his current title at CIG is Senior FPS and Ground Combat Systems Designer, or as his Twitter profile says, FPS Designer Extraordinaire. Let's jump into this thread I saw on Spectrum, appropriately named Bosses in Star Citizen. For the love of God, do not make them bullet sponges. I was sold under the impression that one NPC equals one player. Basically, NPCs and players are effectively one-to-one and can do all the sort of same things. That's what I was sold on. The last thing most of the community wants is for an NPC's health pool to be artificially inflated. This was sold as a simulator, not Cyberpunk 2077. I love Cyberpunk, don't get me wrong, but this game wasn't designed for that from the day it was kickstarted. Bullet sponges are lazy design and fully unimmersive player. If you want to make a boss in a Titan suit, then yes, please, fantastic. I would love to fight one and have it be a tough challenge, but do not just give people big health numbers and then label them a boss. It's boring, overdone, and frankly, about as unimmersive as you can get. That is unless you give the boss NPC some special armor that protects them more than the average player, which then as a player, I can loot and then have a boss's health. That's the only reason an NPC should ever have more health than a player. For the record, I also hate the bosses you have at places like Kreia and bunkers that have artificially inflated health pools. Poor, lazy, boring game design. This needs to be addressed soon because it's only becoming more and more common. Some of the devs seem hell-bent on making this game play like every other arcade combat game you find. It has to stop, guys. We had the lovely Zach Priest turn up and respond here. So, giant bullet sponge FPS enemies wearing heavy armor aren't our long-term goal for FPS bosses. The bosses you see in Siege of Orison are something the team did with the tools they had at the time. In general, the believability of NPC bosses is really important, so we won't end up with the Division-style bullet sponges. Really glad they said that. That's exactly where my brain was going. The Division, that's exactly how they did the harder dungeons and stuff like that. They just made the enemies more and more bullet spongy. We have in the schedule various things to make systemic FPS missions more interesting, with NPCs using ground turrets, using ground vehicles, and some stuff that you'll be surprised about in a good way I won't mention now. That sounds great. CIG literally going, look, there's lots of other ways that we're planning to make bosses bosses, and bullet sponginess isn't the main one. And it looks like they're not going towards that area, although I do suspect there will be a level of artificial inflation of health. There was a response. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate this immensely. It just feels so awful to have a guy in standard armor take 5 times longer to kill than anyone else around them because it's a boss. If they have experimental armor that the player can loot, or a Titan suit or something along those lines, then I'm all for it. But until then, the current bosses just feel bad. Zach Priest responds here. That'll be the idea. The important thing is skinning it so it is grounded and believable. The guys you see in the Citadel armor with the increased HP pool is just our way of currently saying this is a super heavy guy. I wanted to make it consistent across faction who the super heavy is, mainly so that they are easy to swap out later with something more grounded. So cool, they're looking at bosses at the moment going, yes, artificial health pools, but in the future, replace these bosses with something else that's more sensible and more believable, more immersive. Another response here. Bosses in ground vehicles would be awesome. Long been looking forward to having more of a reason to take a Cyclone Urza Atlas Storm Nova to a settlement outpost beside being lazy and wanting to shoot NPCs from safety, and more valid targets for the railgun. Zach Priest responded here, yep, the NPCs can use railguns currently, and we're teaching them how to target ships, vehicles, so we can slot some NPCs with railguns for if you show up. So we can have that archetype stationed then at outposts. This leads to bigger fun missions like sending some ground crew in to take out the anti-vehicle guys, and then you can roll in. So another little question here, or a statement, please add animal bosses as well. And Zach Priest responds, the storm walls are pretty big. So I actually do expect them to have animal bosses, because why not have a Copion Alpha? And some of these can just be a little bit artificially increased, make them a bit bigger, give them a little bit more health, that sort of stuff, make them a bit more dangerous. Another sort of statement here from someone, Zach, it would be nice if current snipers that we have in missions now would hit you once in a while. And Zach responds, the sniper NPCs currently don't have glint, so their accuracy is lower than it should be. They have their own profile that basically has accuracy increased the longer you remain in sight. So it's more likely you've been playing against them correctly and slowly when the servers behave. Sniper enemies were used sparingly in 3.23, but you'll see more of them as areas with them in mind come online. They also have lower damaging snipers, since we use the same damage profiles for players and NPCs, so they don't take away 70% of your health when you get hit, because the accuracy is calculated a percentage chance based on factors. It's one of the main reasons I'm cautious about giving them the P6LR or the ATSCAV. Another user said you could allow NPCs and players to use the same weaponry with the same values and actually make good functioning NPC behavior instead of these workarounds and hacky stuff. Zach Priest responds, they use the same values except HP. That's why I said it's a risk giving them the P6LR. Another user piped in and said AI behavior isn't his department, but you aren't wrong. Zach Priest again responds here, I do FPS weapons, creatures, and FPS AI, so it is. The AI functions pretty well, but server frame rate shenanigans cause issues. It's had massive improvements in 3.23, and we're hoping to keep that pace of improvements as with things like server meshing coming in. Another response, fun fact, bosses have armor with 75% reduction rate. That's what makes them so spongy. Zach responded, that used to be the case, but players found a way to loot them. They just have a lot more health points currently, so people used to steal that armor. I didn't actually know that. They're just super heavies in now, which are sprinkled in with LMGs. Another user said, will it continue to be NPCs with an artificial health boost, or will this be changing down the road to something totally different? Currently shooting a bullet sponge doesn't feel very good. Zach responded, what you see with the Juggernaut archetype will still exist. Enemies in heavy armor with extra HP pools as it helps mix up the combat, but in the future there'll be a lot more context for something that is bullet spongy, so it won't just be like shooting a normal guy who's wearing a set you can just put on. In general, the challenge will not just be shooting people, but dealing with a variety of factors like you saw in Inside Star Citizen. There's copions in contested zones. I really liked what Zach was saying there. Obviously, it went a bit into NPCs and AI a little there as well. So you can expect a little bit of artificial health pool manipulation to a degree, but it's not going to be excessive. You might see bosses with some solid gear on, but also they're going to be having them in vehicles, in Titan suits, and lots of other reasons why they are effectively bossy. I think it's probably easier for them to do ships and vehicles and stuff like that because they can just basically make the AI smarter and use more tactics, be more accurate. And I suppose they can do that to a degree with the NPCs on the ground as well. I think you can take out someone on the ground so much quicker effectively, right? At least potentially. I suppose some of the other stuff is that you can do it situationally, right? Like there will be some areas where you're not going to have a huge amount of equipment and you might be outgunned, outmatched, and there might be loads of other NPCs running around. NPCs could be using defenses or turrets or actually just in a more secure area as the boss. I mean, you might even be able to make the argument that a boss doesn't need all too much of an improvement over a normal squad. They just need to be in a particular area or situation or defended in the correct way, things like that. I did see on Zach Priest's Twitter as well that he had put up a little poll, and we should get involved with that, saying should the P8AR civilian version be either semi-automatic like a DMR or fully automatic but slow firing AR. Now the P8AR is an interesting one because it's basically the sort of UE military's pretty powerful assault weapon. It's the standard issue for them, but it's pretty powerful. It's kind of like a hero weapon. It's sort of empowering your character in Squadron 42. So obviously they want to bring a civilian version to the game, and they're working out exactly how to do that. I like the idea of semi-auto high caliber, but I'm interested to know what you think. And tell me what you think about bosses. What would you like to see? How do you think they should do it? How would you do it in a perfect world? I think bosses and sort of rare loot and rare NPCs and elites and that sort of stuff are super important to making Star Citizen fun, and I hope they do it right. But this is one of the reasons we have these kind of discussions, right? And CIG sort of talk about this stuff, try different stuff out. Star Citizen's now for a reason. Anyway, I'll see you in the comments section. Go down there. Hello. You stand at the pearly gates. The winged being there weighs your sins against the weight of a feather. You are found wanting. Not a problem for nordvpn.com/BoredGamer though. Just change your location. Boom! You're in. Bypass your sin. Get nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. Probably not a tagline that Nord wants, bypass your sin, but that's what they're getting. Maybe they want one about its added security, privacy, or accessibility. Pah! Everyone knows that. You get that at a touch of a button. Click these links below to get great deals on that VPN service. Every month we give away a ship, and this month of August is all about your favourite ships, because it's the ship showdown. My favourite ship is the Mercury Star Runner, and I don't want to give one of those away, but I will. It's a fantastic little multi-role, multi-crew ship. It's got a bit of cargo space, it's got room for a little vehicle, it's got a good amount of firepower, perfect little mission runner. In the future it's going to have data running, it's good for smuggling, it's got lots of secret little hidey holes. I absolutely love this ship. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during August. Also, I would love to know what your favourite ship is. If you would like to further support the channel, consider just commenting or liking, subscribing. That all helps. But also there's the join button under my videos. That goes a huge way to allow us to make daily content on Star Citizen. There's also Patreon, sharing the videos, direct donations. There's links to all of that down below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. You take care and have a great day.